الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, to proceed. So to continue our story of Mishyatul Ghurabi. Mishyatul Ghurabi means, Ya Muhammad,
walk of the raven.
The walk of the raven. The walk of the raven. Mishyatul Ghurabi. So which word is the raven?
Ghurabi.
Al-Ghurabi, which word is walk?
Mishya.
Mishyatu. And we explained that both Al-Ghurab, which is an ismun, and Mishyatun, which is an ismun too, both of these occur in Al-Quran. So Al-Ghurab occurs where, Ya Muhammad?
When the raven digs the ground for Habil to show him,
Right.
Kabil, to show him how to bury Habil.
Right, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, فَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ غُرَابًا يَبْحَثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ لِيُرِيَهُ كَيْفَ يُوَارِي سَوْءَةَ أَخِيهِ. That Allah Azza wa Jalla, ba'atha, He sent al-ghurab, a raven, to Qabil, to show him, who started to dig in the earth, to show him how to bury the body of his brother. That story is mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah. And Mishyatun is an ismun which is derived from which verb, Ya Muhammad?
Masha.
Masha. Masha, which means?
He walked.
He walked. Masha means he walked. I walked is? I walked is?
Masha.
Mashaytu. Mashaytu. You walked single male is? Mashayta. You walked single female is?
Mashayti.
Mashayti. We walked is?
Mashayna.
Mashayna. But the verb mentioned in Al-Quran in Surah Al-Furqan is the present tense. The ayah in which Allah Azza wa Jalla said, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا. Meaning the slaves of Ar-Rahman are those who walk upon this earth with humility. يَمْشُونَ. Okay, that's the present plural third person male. So, to continue the point that we mentioned, or we'll just very quickly mention the beginning, كان غراب يعيش في شجرة. كان غراب يعيش في شجرة, which means
Kana. They used to live a raven in a tree.
right, a raven used to live in a tree. وفي الشجرة طيور أخرى كثيرة.
In the tree, many birds.
Right, there were many other birds in the tree. في يوم من الأيام. في يوم من الأيام.
In the day.
In one day of the days, نظر الغراب إلى تحت الشجرة. نظر الغراب إلى تحت الشجرة.
He saw
The raven.
the raven.
نظر looked
Looked
to under the tree.
تحت under the tree.
ورأى حجلة تمشي.
Of course, that was Hamshala.
ورأى, he saw حجلة تمشي.
This is a bird. What bird it was?
Partridge.
Partridge, that's it.
ورأى حجلة تمشي. Right? So you follow so far. So a raven used to live in a tree. In that tree there were many other birds. One day from the days, the raven looked underneath the tree وَرَأَ حَجَلَةً تَمْشِي. And he saw a partridge walking. Right? فَأَحَبَّ مشيتها. فأحب.
So,
right, an important point here is that our word here comprises of two parts. We have the fa and we have the verb ahabba. Right? In Arabic, the use of fa, which means so or then, is very common. And it's commonly applied to verbs to indicate a sequence. Meaning, so this gurab, نظر إلى تحت الشجرة, he looked underneath the tree. وراء حجلة تمشي, and he saw a partridge walking. فأحب مشيتها. So or then, أحب, he أحب مشيتها. Right, so fa is used to indicate a sequence of events, one after the next, or so. Okay, but we'll speak about that in more detail. But the point here is we have fa and ahabba. What type of word is ahabba?
Present.
Ahabba.
Verb.
It's a verb, present, past.
First person.
No, ahabba is he loved. Right? Ahabba means he loved. For ahabba, so he loved. What did he love? Mishyataha.
Her walk.
Her walk. Right? That's a mishyataha. Her walk. If it was his walk, it would be mishyata who. If it was your walk single male, it would be mishyata ka. If it was your walk single female, it would be mishyata ki. If it was our walk, mishyata na, and so on and so forth. Okay? So, first of all, this is fi'l madi, past tense. Right? Ahabba means he loved. If we wanted to say I loved, we would say
Ahabbu. With a mad on top.
no, past.
Or of past.
It would be ahbab, ahbabtu, ahbabtu, right? Because in effect the shadda represents two letters of the ba. So when you change it, when you put it in the first person conjugation, it becomes ahbabtu. Want to say you loved single male, it would be
Ahabta.
ahbabta. You loved single female would be
Ahbabti.
ahbabti. We love would be ahbabna. Right? So in the famous hadith of Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu an, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "La yu'minu ahadukum hatta yuhibbu hatta yuhibbu li akhihi twice, right? Hatta yuhibba. Actually, that's not yuhibbu, that's yuhibba. Hatta yuhibba. So that verb yuhibba, which ordinarily would be yuhibbu, but it's mansubun because of hatta, but we'll speak about that some other time. Yuhibba here is the present tense of ahabba. right? This now we're on the texts. We will constantly be switching from past to present and then different conjugations, and this is why it's important to learn them, because if you haven't learned them, then it becomes confusing. Whereas if you have learned them, straight away you look at that verb yuhibba, and you know it's present tense, third person, singular, male of ahabba. You see, so it's very beneficial that you learn them, because you acquire more benefit when you're reading the texts. So that's the present tense yuhibbu. I love present tense is uhibbu. Okay, we love is nuhibbu. You love single male is tuhibbu. Okay, so فأحب مشيتها. The other point to note is, what is the i'rab, the grammatical state of مشيتها? What type of word is it?
منصوب.
It's mansubun. Why is it mansubun?
It's subhanallah, مفعول به.
It's a maf'ulun bihi. It's the object. And it's the object of which a verb, which fi'lun has affected it, to cause it to change from mishyatuha to mishyataha. Ahabba. Why? Because ahabba means he loved. So akhlaq, what is it that he loved?
His walk.
His walk, or her walk, right? Because we're talking about the hajala, right? The hajalat and the partridge. So it's the partridge's walk, which is the thing that ahabba, he loved. فَأَحَبَّ مِشْيَتَهَا. Is that clear? Right? وَأَحَبَّ, actually that's what أحب, but it doesn't matter. وَأَحَبَّ مِشْيَتَهَا قَالَ الْغُرَابُ فِي نَفْسِهِ. Right. قال الغراب في نفسه. Right. Let's just correct this mistake, because in the text that is what and right. وَحَبَّ مِشْيَتَهَا قَالَ الْغُرَابُ في نفسه. Right. قال is what type of word, ya Rajan? فعل, اسم, or harfun? He said.
He said. Ism.
He said, ya Rajan. It's a fi'lun. Right. قال, he said. So if قال is our verb, he said, which is the fi'lun, what do we look for next, ya akhlaq? We look for the person who's doing it, right? The doer. And the doer is called fa'ilun. Fa'ilun is the doer. And the doer is always in what state? مرفوع. الغراب, right? وحب مشيتها قال الغراب. قال الغراب. So what does قال الغراب mean, يا أخلاق? قال الغراب.
He said the raven.
Right. But when you translate it, translate it as the raven said, right? قال الغراب. يا موسى, sit down. Right? وحب مشيتها قال الغراب في نفسه. What does that mean? قال الغراب.
The raven said to himself.
Right. في نفسه. Right? في نفسه. Why do we say في نفسه?
Because of the feet, they drag it down.
Right, so في is a حرف جر يجر, it makes مجرور نفس. What does نفس mean?
Self.
Himself. نفسه means
His self.
his self. Right? So it becomes في نفسه. قال الغراب, the raven said في نفسه. Right. What did الغراب say to himself? Very important, the next sentence. He said, أريد أن أمشي مثل تلك الهجلة. Right. So, قال الغراب في نفسه أريد أن أمشي. Very important, this construct. We mentioned this in our last lesson. So what does أريد mean? Ya Muhammad.
It's a verb present. I'm going to say I wish.
Right, I want.
I want.
أريد is the present tense of the verb أراد. Okay. And أراد means he wanted. Right? And because we say this particular word regularly, I want, in English, it's very important to learn this verb, أريد. أريد, I want. أراد, he wanted. Okay? So, أريد أن أمشي. Now, when you're a beginner learning how to construct sentences that comprise of multiple verbs, this can be a bit confusing. And in simple terms, an is used to mean two. Why? Because what does amshia mean?
My walk.
I walk.
I walk.
Right? Amshia is the present tense of mashaytu. Mashaytu means I walked. Amshia means I'm walking. Right? So what does it mean? It means uridu, I want, and two, amshia, I walk.
Like.
Mithla, mithla means like. Okay? Mithla tilkal hajalati. Right. So I want to walk like that hajalati partridge.
So that's not anna.
No, that's not anna. That's anna. So the first thing to note, this is how we express that sentence in Arabic. Pay attention to these two verbs. Uridu means, ya Arajan,
Sorry.
I want. Amshiya means, ya akhlaq.
Walk like.
No. That one verb, amshiya.
I walk.
I walk. We only say amshiya, that's only mansoob because of an. Right? Ordinarily, it would be amshi, like that. Right. So, this is how we express that sentence. I want to walk like that partridge. Tilka al-hajalati, that partridge, right? But note how it's actually constructed in Arabic. Uridu, I want. That's clear. Present tense verb, right? And we understand that to mean two, but actually it connects the verbs together. Then in English, we say, I want to walk, right? In Arabic, what are we saying actually? I want to, I walk. Is that clear? That's how you're expressing it in Arabic. You're using the first person again of the verb. Just like you're using the first person of the verb uridu, or arada, the first person is uridu, and this is the first person of masha, amshi. Okay? Mithla, like, tilka, that, al-hajalati. So, is that clear? If we wanted to change this, and this is what I mentioned in our last lesson, is that to learn Arabic and to learn it quickly, you don't just read a text like this and think, well, I know what uridu means, I know an amshia, what that means, mithla tilka al-hajalati, all of it, I understand it. You don't stop there. You think, right, how would we change it to, he wants to walk like that partridge. He wants to walk. Right, so if we wanted to express he wants to walk, it would be Yuridu
an amshi.
No, it's the third person again. Yamshiya. Right? Yuridu an yamshiya mithla tilka al-hajalati. If we want to say we want to walk like that partridge, we would say Nuridu
an
namshiya
mithlaka.
mithla tilka al-hajalati. Can you see what we're doing? We're changing both of the verbs, right? And then similarly, as I said, is that once you've learnt one version or one conjugation, you need to apply the others, the other conjugations, and then after that you need to introduce other verbs to make real sentences. What these texts are good for is giving you a template, giving you an example of how to construct a sentence, right? But all of the other sentences, the thousands upon thousands of other sentences that you would ordinarily use to communicate, you have to make them yourself. So for example, a very common construction is to say, I want to go to some place, right? I want to go to the market. How would we say this? Well, we begin with uridu. Uridu an how would we say it? I want to go to the market. Uridu an, which verb are we going to use?
ذهب.
Right, we're going to use the verb ذهب, aren't we? Because ذهب means he went. So we're going to use ذهب. But how do we include ذهب or change ذهب into the correct tense to formulate our sentence?
أذهب.
Right, أريد أن.
أذهب.
Right, good. That's correct. أريد أن أذهب. It becomes ba, it becomes mansub because of an. But we'll discuss that later. أريد أن أذهب إلى السوق. Right? أريد أن أذهب إلى السوق. That is a very common expression, right, Arjun? I want to go to the market. If we wanted to say he wants to go to the market, we would say
يريد
أن يذهب إلى السوق. We want to go to the market, ya akhlaq.
نريد
نريد
أن
أن
نذهب
نذهب
إلى سوق.
right إلى السوق. You want to go يا رجال, you want to go to the market would be
Don't.
you want. How do we say you want? Present tense. Speaking to a single male. You want.
تريد
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 أن تذهب إلى السوق.
right. تريد أن تذهب إلى السوق. Right. If we remove أذهب, right. I want to sit on the chair. أريد أن
أجلس
أجلس.
أجلس.
Right, I want to sit.
أ-
أريد أن أجلس. Why أجلس? Because أجلس is
No.
جلس. جلس is he sat. Past tense. So we know that, so the present tense is أجلس. We place it in our sentence and it becomes an أجلس. To sit on is على
على الكرسي.
على الكرسي. أريد أن أجلس على الكرسي. I want to sit on the chair. Okay? But can you see how from that one sentence here, أريد أن أمشي, using the same construction but altering the words, the verbs, we can create a multitude of different sentences. That's what you need to start doing. Right? It's not enough just to read that sentence أريد أن أمشي مثل تلك الحجلة and think, well, I understand what that means. It's not enough. If you want to learn Arabic, you have to then say, okay, if I know how to say I want to walk like that partridge, then it should be easy for me to alter or substitute some of the words to create my own sentences. I want to write on the board. أريد أن أكتب على السبورة. Right? I want to travel to Mecca. أريد أن أسافر إلى مكة. Do you understand? It should be easy once you learn a construction or an expression and then you learn the other words that you can then formulate your own sentences. So this is what Al-Ghurabu said, أريد أن أمشي مثل تلك الحجلة. Right? Is that clear? فحاول وحاول يوما بعد يوم. So what happened? فحاول وحاول يوما بعد يوم. Right. فحاول وحاول يوما بعد يوم. Right. Here again we have fa. Whenever we see a word which appears to be a fi'lun, hawala, because hawala is a fi'lun, it's a verb. How do we know, Ya Muhammadu, that hawala is a verb? What are the indicators?
It doesn't have alif lam, it doesn't have a ta marbuta, it doesn't have a tanween at the end. Tanween?
Right, there's no al on it, but then lots of asma'un don't have al when they're in their indefinite state, but it doesn't have al. In addition to that, why would it just end with a single fatha? Right? There's no tanween on it. Okay, there's no two markings. But then why would it end in a single fatha? So, by looking at it, there are a number of indicators that suggest that that is a fi'lun, even if we don't know what it means. So, whenever we have what appears to be a fi'lun, beginning with fa, we need to ask ourselves a very simple question, that is the fa part of the verb, or is it a harf, a letter which is added to it, which means so or then? For example, the verb fahima. What does fahima mean, ya Muhammad?
He understood.
He understood. Fahima means he understood. Right? This is an example where we have a fi'lun that begins with fa, but that fa is actually part of the fi'lun. It's not an addition. But if we said fahima, what does that then mean?
Then he understood.
Right, then he understood, or so he understood. Is that clear? So we started with fahima, which means he understood. And I said, remember, when we have what appears to be a fi'lun, beginning with fa, we ask ourselves, is that first fa part of the fi'lun, or is it an addition? In this instance, that first fa on fahima is part of the verb. Fahima means he understood. But the second one, for fahima, is clearly a harfun, which indicates so or then. Okay? However, here, for hawala, we know by looking at the next word, wahawala, that it's an addition. So what does hawala mean? He tried. So, ya akhlaq, what does this mean? Fahawala wahawala.
So he tried and tried.
Right, so he tried and he tried. Okay? If we wanted to say I tried, we would say hawaltu. You tried single male.
Hawalat.
Hawalta. We tried. Hawalna. Okay? Similarly, the present tense, I am trying is uhawilu. Uhawilu. We are trying nuhawilu. He is trying yuhawilu. She is trying tuhawilu. You trying single male tuhawilu, and so on and so forth. Once you learn one set of conjugations for one verb, the rest become easy because you apply the same principle. For hawala wa hawala yawman. What does yawman mean?
Day.
A day. Ba'da yawmin.
Day after day.
Day after day. Now, this is a mansubun. Right? Yawman is a mansubun. Why is yawman a mansubun? We haven't done this in this series of lessons. But does anybody know why?
I was going to say it's a maf'ulun bihi.
It's not a maf'ulun bihi, but it is a maf'ulun.
Maf'ulun fihi.
It's a maf'ulun fihi. Good. Yeah. Why, ya Muhammad?
It's to do with zamani.
Right, because it indicates the time in which the action took place. The action is what, ya Arjan? Hawala. He tried. So the action of trying, when did it take place? Yawman, in a day. Ba'da yawmin, after day. So that yawman there, right, is what we call maf'ulun fihi, the object of time, i.e. when the action took place. But we'll discuss that in a separate lesson. Ba'da, what type of word is ba'da? We have done ba'da.
Harf.
No. It's dharfu zamani. Remember, dharfu zaman indicates a period of time. So day after yawmin. Why is yawmin mansubun? Majrurun?
Because it's followed after ba'da.
Because that's an idafa construct, ba'da yawmin. After a day. That is an idafa construct. Okay? فحاول وحاول يوم بعد يوم ولكنه لم يقدر أن يمشي مثل الحجلة. Right. ولكنه what? لكنه لم يقدر أن يمشي مثل الهجلة. Right. ولكنه means ولكنه
But he
لم يقدر.
it's a negation.
Lam is used to negate. What does lam negate, ya Muhammad?
Past, no, future.
Present.
Not present.
Okay.
For future.
So this verb يقدر is the present tense. He was able. قدر. قدر means, sorry, يقدر is present tense. He is able. قدر is the past tense, which means
He was able.
he was able. Past tense. Okay? قدر is past. Present tense is يقدر. يقدر. Okay? So يقدر means he is able. قدر, he was able. If we want to negate يقدر, how do we do it, Muhammad?
Lan.
What?
Do you put lan at the start?
There's three ways.
Or la, ma.
Either we can use لا يقدر, which means
He was not able.
he is not able.
Not able.
Okay, that's the first way for negating يقدر, he is not able. Or we can use
La.
lam. What does lam يقدر mean?
He wasn't able.
He wasn't able. When we put lam ya rajal before a verb in the present tense, it gives a meaning of he wasn't past, he wasn't able. Okay? That's the second way for negating the present tense. The other way for negating the present tense is, yeah, la, and I should have mentioned the la and ma are the same. La and ma are the same. But the other way is lan. What effect does the lan have on yaqdirun?
It's like future.
He will not be able. Lan yaqdir, and it becomes a mansoob. We've discussed all of this. Right? So here we have lam yaqdi. What goes on the right here, ya Muhammad? No, not with the lam. A sukoon. This becomes madzooman. Lam yaqdir. ولكنه لم يقدر, but he was not able أن يمشي, to walk. But he was not able to walk مثل الحجلة, like the partridge. Right, so Muhammad, read it from what Ahabba and translate it.
وَهَبَّ مِشْيَتَهَا, and he loved her walk. قَالَ الْغُرَابُ, the raven said, في نفسه, in himself. أريد أن أمشي, I want to walk. مثل تلك الحجلة, like that partridge.
Good.
فحاول وحاول, and he tried so he tried and tried, يوما بعد يوم, day after day, ولكنه, and he wasn't,
ولكنه,
but he wasn't, لم يقدر, he wasn't able, أن يمشي, to walk, مثل الحجلة,
yes,
like the partridge.
good, right. So the last two sentences therefore. ثم حاول أن يرجع إلى مشيته التي كان عليها, فوجد أنه قد نسيها. Right, ثم means then. Okay. The difference between thumma, which means then, and fa, which means then or so. The difference between them is that fa is used for a sequence, usually uninterrupted. Like, for example, هو أكل فشرب فجلس. Oh, actually, it should be sat down anyway. It's better if we say هو أكل فشرب فكتب. Right? هو أكل, he ate, فشرب, then drank, فكتب, then wrote. Okay? Thumma is used for a sequence, but not necessarily uninterrupted. Meaning, there might have been something else that took place between the two incidents, right? So, for example, هو أكل ثم كتب. He ate, then he wrote. Okay? Now, even though one comes after the next, it doesn't necessarily mean they occurred straight away. There may have been an interruption. So here we have ثم حاول. Then he tried and to yarji. What goes on the ayn here? And yarji. Because it's a mansoob one. Right. So again, yarji'a is from the verb raja'a, which means?
I think it means he entered.
No, he returned.
Oh, he returned.
Raja'a is he returned. I returned is?
Raja.
No, I returned. Past tense. Raja'tu. We returned. Raja'na, you return single male. Raja'ta, you return single female. Raja'ti. But this is present tense. Yarji'u. Okay. Yarji'u. Yarji'u is he returns or is returning. Arji'u is I'm returning. Narji'u is we are returning. Tarji'u is you are returning, or she is returning. Okay, so what does that mean? ثم حاول أن يرجع.
Then he tried to
يرجع,
return.
return. ثم حاول أن يرجع, then he tried to return. إلى, good, أخلاق. To, مشية. What does مشية mean?
Walk.
Walk. مشية. Right, how do you say this? مشية. What goes on the ta?
Or
كسرة. مشيته. Right, so what does that sentence mean? ثم حاول أن يرجع إلى مشيته. What does it mean, أخلاق?
So he tried and return to his walk.
Right, good. Then he tried to return to his walk. Okay. التي just means which. It's called ism al-mawsul. We haven't done this yet. Means which. It refers back to mishya. Okay, which. Kana alayha. Kana means he was alayha, on
her.
On her. Wait, on her. But what does the ha here, damir muttasil, what does it refer to?
The party.
No. Walk.
Oh, the walk.
So in effect, it's slightly complicated, but in effect what they're saying is that he tried to return to his walk, which he did or was upon, his walk that he was doing. But the way that they've expressed it is إِلَى مِشْيَتِهِ الَّتِي, which kana, he was alayha, on it, meaning the one that he did. Okay. فَوَجَدَ. So here we go again, right? Another example of a word that begins with fa. What do we ask ourselves, Ya Rajan? What do we say when we have a word that begins with fa?
Is it fa?
Is it part of the word?
Right, is it part of the fi'lun or not? Okay. فَوَجَدَ.
He found. So,
Right, wajada means
he found.
right. فَوَجَدَ, he found. Right? Wajada. When you read Surah Al-Kahf tomorrow, towards the end, when Musa and Khadr alayhim as-salam entered Al-Qarya, استطعم أهلها فأبوا أن يضيفوهما فوجدا فيها جدارا. Right? Remember that fi'lun and look out for it. Wajada means he found. And that ayah, it's فوجدا. What does that mean? فوجدا.
It's plural.
It's dual. Al-muthanna. They too. So they too. فوجد فيها جدارا يريد. Right? يريد أن ينقض. So فوجد, so he found أنه that he أنه comprises of أن plus who. أنه,
Indeed he.
indeed he نسيها. Right, nasiya. What does nasiya mean? Nasiya.
That's probably derived from the same word.
Nasiya. It means he forgot.
Is the Nasiya derived from that same 3 letters?
Which 3 letters?
Nasiya. And you know when you give somebody advice?
No, that's nasiha.
But is it like derived from the...
No.
Can be different.
Yes, it's completely different. Right. فَأَنَّهُ نَسِيَهَا. Nasiya means he forgot. Nasiyaha means he forgot
It.
It referring to the walk. Right? Because remember what's happened. ثم حاول أن يرجع إلى مشيته. Then he tried to return to his walk. التي كان عليها, which he was upon. فوجد, and he found أنه نسيها, that he's forgotten it. Right? Is that clear?
Alayha means upon.
Upon it.
Upon it.
Right? It's literally upon her, but it's referring back to the walk. Right. وصارت what? صارت مش تهو. Actually, that's not correct spelling. مشيته. صارت مشيته أقبها مشية في الطيور. Right. وصارت. What does صارت mean? It became. Right? Sara means he became. Sarat literally means she became. Okay? Sarat. Wasarat. So what was it that became? What's the doer here? Mish. Yeah. To who? Right? His walk, mishyatuhu, sarat, became, what did it become? It became أقبها مشية في الطيور. Right. وصارت مشيته, his walk, صارت, became, أقبها. أقبها is what we call اسم التفضيل. And the اسم التفضيل is a comparative in Arabic. It's like saying bigger than, smaller than. Here, it's most ugly. Okay, actually, in English grammar, that's a superlative. Most ugly, أقبها مشية, and that's an idafa. So the most ugly walk, في, amongst or in, الطيور, the birds. Okay, so note, صارت is just a normal verb, right?
What's in it? It's an original form.
Sara.
Just
Sara. And Sara is like kana, in that you have ismu kana and khabru kana. You have ismu Sara and you have khabru Sara. Okay, so the ismu Sara is mishyatu. The khabru kana is akbaha. Khabru Sara, yeah. So his walk, Sarat, became most ugly. The most ugly, mishyatin, walk, fit tayuri, amongst the birds. Okay? Then the last part is, fala hiya فلا هي مشية غراب فلا هي مشية غراب ولا هي مشية هجلة. مشية هجلة. So, what's happened? صارت مشيته, his walk, صارت became, أقبح, the most ugly, مشية, walk, that's an إضافة, which is why مشية, the مضاف إليه is مجرور, because the مضاف إليه is always مجرور in an إضافة. Most ugly walk, في, amongst or in, الطيوري, and الطيوري is مجرور, why يا رجال?
Because of the fee.
You mastered that point, haven't you, mashallah? When you do all the rest like that degree of confidence, then you've mastered it. Right. في الطيور فلا هي. فلا هي. So now we have an example where fa is attached to la. So not. La is to negate. Right? And la's, the rulings regarding la, we'll discuss in more detail. But la here just negates, okay, the category. It's called nafiyatul jins. So fala here, so not. Here, she, referring to the walk, mishyatu gurabin. What does that mean? Mishyatu gurabin, walk of a raven. Wala here, and not she, mishyatu hajalatin,
walk of the partridge.
is a walk of a partridge. So when it states fala here, the here bit refers to his walk. So in effect, what the author is saying is that his walk, la here, is not mishyatu gurabin, a walk of a raven, wala here, and it, the walk, is not mishyatu hajalatin, the walk or a walk of a partridge. So it's neither this nor that, which is why it's أقبح مشية في الطيور. Right, Rijal? And that's the end of the story. Now we went through it quickly, but you can watch the video again. But the point to note is that in order to derive maximum benefit from these texts, the purpose is not just to read it and understand it, because that you'll do quite quickly if you put the required effort in. The point of it is to be able to extract from it the words, identify the asma'un, the nouns, the af'alun, the verbs, and then be able to use these verbs in your own sentences, to be able to conjugate it in the different forms, apply other asma'un to it, nouns, and formulate your own sentences. What these texts are very good for is to give you a template of how to do that. Right, any questions?
I've got two questions. Akbaha, what did that mean again? I forgot.
Akbaha, in its normal form, it is akbahu. Akbahu. Okay?
Yeah.
And that ismun is mamnu' min as-sarf, which is why we don't say akbahun. Doesn't take tanweenu dammin. It's only a single dhamma, and it means most ugly. Just like when you say Allahu Akbaru. Akbaru means the greatest. A'zamu, the most majestic. Atwalu, the tallest. Asgharu, the shortest. A'lamu, the most learned.
Is it because of the alif in the front that it becomes most?
No, that is the form.
Oh, that is the form.
Right? It's called Ismu Tafdeel. Now, why is Aqbaha mansubun here and not Aqbahu? Why is it changed from its default form? Because here it's Khabaru Sara. And Khabaru Sara, just like Khabaru Kana, is always? No, mansubun. Which is why it takes the fatha.
You know, yeah.
Right? So it means the most ugly. It's just like when you say Allahu Akbaru. Okay? Well, it's like saying Hadha al-waladu, this boy, Atwalu, is taller, min Hadha al-waladi, than this boy. Always remember a simple example of any type of word, and then it becomes easier.
Okay, the second question I had was Sara, you said it's same as Kana. So, you know, if like...
Same in the sense, Sara is the same as Kana in the sense that you have Ismu Kana and Khabru Kana.
Yeah.
And you have Ismu Sara and Khabru Kana.
Would it change the same as well? So
yes, it takes the same ruling. Right, so Muhammad's asking, so Sara, this verb, right? How do we change Sara? What's the conjugation? Well, remember, the easiest way to understand this is to take an example of a verb that looks the same from one that you know its conjugation or different forms of conjugation. So Sara looks like Qala. Okay? And how do you say I said? If Qala is he said, what is I said? Qultu. Qultu, I said. Qulta, you said. Qalu, they said. Right? Qulna, we said. So if you know how to change Qala, then how do you say I became? If we say Qultu is I said, how do we say I became?
Surutu.
It's right, you'd think it's Surtu, but actually in this instance it's Sirtu. Not Surtu. Sirtu. Sirtu, I became. Sirna, we became. Sirta, you became. Sirti, you became female. Saru, they became. Okay? Okay, in the present tense, it is Asaru.
Does it follow the same rules? Qala and Sara and Kana?
Same rules in the sense.
That way it changes.
Yes, but not. Yeah, but actually, as I said, it's not exactly the same as Qala.
The Iraq will be different slightly, but
not the Arab, the harakat. Nama. Nama means he slept. I slept is nimtu. You slept nimta. We slept nimna. Nama and Sara the same. So Nama is he slept, Sara is he became. Nimtu is I slept. Sirtu is I became. It would be a very good idea to watch this again, because we went through it quickly in order to complete it. But if you're not sure about any aspect or just important reminder, just to watch it again.
Inshallah.
I shall conclude. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.